It's time to renew an old rivalry, a Central Texas rivalry, a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. The Longhorns and the Bears. Battling in Waco. Will it be Hook'em or Sick'em that wins along the Brazos today?
Live from Touchdown Alley at McLean Stadium on the campus of Baylor University, this is Baylor Game Day. Presented by Baylor Scott & White and Southwest Sports Medicine, and brought to you in part by Waco Carpet Company, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Professional Exteriors, KWTX News 10, and Fox Sports. This is Baylor Game Day.
It's a big game because they're playing us, and you know, they compete just like us, and we compete. So I think both teams will go out and compete at a very high level. So we're both very excited for the game.
It's a good one. Over the years it has been, and the Baylor Bears are ready to go. The Bear Walk this morning right outside of McLean Stadium, nice and early, an 8:30 start to the Bear Walk here. And not a lot of sailgating going on in 30-something degrees, but the fans showing up for the Bear Walk, excited to see the Baylor Bears take on the Texas Longhorns today. It is the 106th meeting between these two, and Baylor trying to get a win, the first of the year, against the Longhorns, who have a few already this season. They've played a little better than Baylor has so far this year. Welcome to Baylor Game Day, live in Touchdown Alley. I'm Troy Heim, pleased as always to be joined by Terrence Ganaway, and we've sent out for another tie for you, just so you're aware.
I forgot that we were playing the Longhorns today for some reason. So I might have to wear a baby face to make up for that later on.
They gave me a shirt at a baseball game because I wore a purple shirt to a TCU game here.
Well,
they did not appreciate that.
We're just supporting the Big 12. This is a Big 12 game, and why can't I do that?
That's good spin from you.
I think it looks good, Terrence.
Yeah, thank you.
Julie Hayes here with us as always, and you've worn the appropriate.
Yeah. You know what, though? The funny thing is I actually did have on a sweater that was mostly burnt orange, and I changed right before I came because I thought, but hey, Terrence, if you'd have just sent me a text, we could have matched.
Yeah, we could have.
And Dan Ingham, who didn't even bring a jacket today.
That's right.
Just a sports coat.
You're
tougher than all of us.
jackets.
Yeah, you're tougher than all of us. I was proud to see you walk up with just a sports coat on today.
This is football weather. This is what football weather's supposed to be like, in my mind.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get started today, and we begin, as we always do on Baylor Game Day, with the opening drive. All right, buddy, you're up first. What do you want to talk about this week?
You know, red zone efficiency. Baylor is only 43% red zone efficiency this year, with only 4 rushing touchdowns and then 5 pass TDs. But we've kicked the ball 9 times in the red zone. And one of the things that was a staple with the old coach, and Coach Clement was the old offensive line coach, was when you get in the red zone, you cannot leave games up to the offensive lineman. To the field goal unit. Although Connor Martin has been money from inside the 40 this year, you got to be able to score points. And if we can get in the red zone against this Texas defense, we have to convert that into 6 points instead of 3 points, because ultimately that's how you win games. Baylor is tied for 54th in the nation right now with red zone efficiency at 43%.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle this year. Julie?
I want to know, hey, what's going to go on with the quarterback situation? I think a lot of people were hoping or maybe thinking that Brewer might be starting today after that big comeback he had against West Virginia. Not Terrence, apparently. But hey, he came in late in the third quarter when the score was 38-13. He had a big rally, almost tied the game up there at the end. So, you know, the Brewer is a freshman. He's from Lake Travis High School, and Tom Herman, when he was interviewed earlier in the week, said, yeah, we expect to see him on the field. So I'm curious to see, you know, how does it shake out for Zach Smith, whom the coach had said he wasn't feeling well going into the West Virginia game, so hopefully he'll be better this game. I'll be curious to see who's on the field most of the 4 quarters there.
Well, I can tell you who will be on the field. A lot of underclassmen. I'm talking about the youth movement at Baylor right now. Listen, look at this. 17 true freshmen have played for Baylor so far this year. That's the 4th highest number in the nation. 230 yards of offense in that 4th quarter versus West Virginia, led by a couple of freshmen, Charlie Brewer, Treston Ebner. Hard to imagine these two won't play a lot of snaps, depending on no matter who starts. Those guys are going to play. And I love these numbers here. These are interesting. Underclassmen have accounted for 72% of Baylor's yards total offense this year, and underclassmen have accounted for 63% of Baylor's tackles on defense. So that's good news, bad news things. Bad news is you're not going to win a lot of games typically in the Big 12 with freshmen and sophomore, but the future might be bright. So I'm curious about the youth movement. Is this team going to grow up and finally get a win this week?
And what I want to see today is that Texas defense. They've been really good this year. Texas among the best in the Big 12 on the defensive side of the ball. I know the record doesn't necessarily show that they've been as good as they have been on defense, but they've been good. 5th overall in total defense in the Big 12, tied for first in interceptions in Big 12, and they're first in getting off the field on 3rd downs in the Big 12 this year. They've been very, very good on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive line, one of the best in the country. Matt Rule said that's a group that they really have to worry about today, so I'm interested to see how that Texas defense plays against an offense from Baylor that has been hot and cold, depending on the day here throughout this regular season. The opening drive brought to you, as it always is, by Toe King this week. Julie brought up the quarterback situation. Matt Rule says Zach Smith is going to start the football game. Charlie Brewer should play today. He gave a real boost last week, but at that point, is it a matter of West Virginia being done at that point and kind of setting things down, or did he really come in and play that well?
Well,
or a combination?
Yeah, well, a combination of both. Charlie Brewer is a different athlete than Zach Smith, and so when you look at him and what he was able to do in the 4th quarter, the playbook changed for Charlie Brewer. He had a lot of running back sets where he can get the running backs in motion, and no one accounts for the running backs in the pass game. Tristan Ebner had a few good catches in the 4th quarter, 2 for touchdowns, big plays for the Baylor Bears. But West Virginia rushed 3 people the entire 4th quarter outside of 3 attempts. They brought a pressure. One time Charlie Brewer made his Houdini scramble, got outside the pocket. The other times they brought pressure, they got home. So West Virginia wasn't expecting Baylor to score 22 points in the 4th quarter. They were expecting, hey, let's get out of this game. Let's not make big mistakes. And it almost cost them. They almost got Texas Tech like they did Texas Tech the week before with scoring 29 unanswered points. I think Zach Smith gives you a better chance of winning this game because he can sit in the pocket and make better throws than Charlie Brewer as of today. Now, that may change next year in the future, but we're trying to win a game a day.
Zach Smith is he's an NFL quarterback if you just look at him. If he stands back there and practice and throws, he looks like an NFL guy. Charlie Brewer, very different, very efficient, and like you said, very mobile. It was a lot of fun to watch last week.
Well, and I think you could make the argument, in my opinion at least, that maybe that's what this team needs right now. With not a great offensive line for being offense, the guy who's going to need some ability to get away from trouble, Charlie Brewer can do that. Now, his playbook may not be as big as Zach Smith because he's still a kid who was just playing at Lake Travis not that long ago. So he may not be able to do everything that Zach Smith can do with his arm. But my prediction for today, Brewer plays more snaps at quarterback than Zach Smith today.
Well, he certainly was a lot of fun to watch last week, and I think the crowd enjoyed seeing him come in and make plays.
Yeah, I think they did. There's no doubt about that. That's why I think everyone's waiting to see, what is going to happen. Is he going to start, Brewer this game? And I know when Matt Rule got in front of the press, he said, hey, I don't want to be quick to pull the trigger on something like the quarterback position. Yes, he played well, but maybe it was because Zach Smith wasn't feeling 100% going into West Virginia. So let's see what happens. And another interesting thing I saw about Brewer is, he came on, obviously, right when Matt Rule was coming to town, and he said it was literally the first time in the history of him that he can ever think of that a recruit like that came onto campus, and the first time that Matt Rule met this kid was when he was moving his stuff into the dorm. He said, I had to send my other coaches out, everything, they've got all this stuff going on. He said that's unusual. Usually a player coming to a school like Baylor, they want the coach to meet them face-to-face before they make a commitment. So that's interesting.
Yeah, let's not forget, too, Charlie Brewer was the first guy they targeted when they got on campus as a coaching staff. They said, we know we're lacking at quarterback. They went up to Lake Travis or down to Lake Travis and recruited him right away. That matters sometimes, I think, too.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And one of the interesting things about last week is he really earned some of the respect from his teammates in the game situation. Let's hear what some of the teammates for Charlie Brewer had to say about his performance last week.
He's very mobile. He can run, he can throw the ball. Like I say, he's picked up on the offense pretty well. And he just has a toughness about him, that you don't really see in a whole lot of quarterbacks.
Does he seem like a freshman?
No. He takes it, like I say, he takes it pretty serious. He works hard, and he hates to lose. He has that fire about him.
As a football player, you like a guy that likes to win. But one of the big issues last week, and has been, it seems like throughout the years, the defensive side. You and I were watching the game together. Baylor doesn't even get lined up half the time correctly on defense. It was disturbing in week 7 or 8 or whatever it was.
You got to call some timeouts, and we burned a lot of timeouts early in the game. Defensively, they're still doing a lot of things, and to talk about what Dan talked about earlier is it's a lot of youth. And so when those guys, you get flunky sets and you know that West Virginia has the ability to run the ball with Jamal Crawford and then throw to those big receivers on the end, you're trying to make sure everybody's in the right position and you're moving pieces and you're trying to show different things from a defensive schematic standpoint. Hopefully that continues to iron itself out. It's less and less as we continue to go. Texas won't be fancy on offense today, so I expect our defense to get lined up and play some good ball.
Yeah, this is a chance for them to have a better day defensively.
Yeah, I mean, because Texas is not one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in this league. Let's be honest. I mean, they just got done playing Oklahoma State, West Virginia, 2 high-powered offenses. Now, I don't want to say you can breathe a sigh of relief because you're still playing Big 12 caliber players, but Bouchel is nowhere near the quarterbacks that they faced the last 2 weeks. Let's just be honest.
Well, we'll see if they can play a little bit better today on that defensive side of the ball. When we come back, Matt Rule joining Tyler Bolden. We'll have that coming up. We'll hear from the coach himself right before the game. You're watching Baylor Game Day live from Touchdown Alley on Fox Sports and KWTX News 10.
I'm Quan Cosby Hookham, but you're watching Baylor Game Day.
Welcome back to Baylor Game Day, live from Touchdown Alley as Texas and Baylor get set to do battle here at McLean Stadium. An 11 a.m. kickoff, your favorite, isn't it?
Yeah, I love waking up and driving down from the DFW area. I missed breakfast, so I'm going to have to
stop in West and get some kolaches?
It just took packed, man.
Oh, yeah. On game day, that place is packed.
I'm going to have to go get some, somebody was telling me about some deer wrapped in some bacon. I don't know if you eat that for breakfast, but
you can always have bacon and venison for breakfast.
Yeah.
And next time, bring us kolaches.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Sure.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, Matt Rule is in with his football team right now. He walked into the stadium after the Bear Walk just a little bit ago. Tyler Bolden caught up with him, has more on his conversation with Matt Rule.
Head coach Matt Rule joining us here on Baylor Game Day. Coach, it's your first true 11 o'clock kickoff. A little bit colder this morning. Hope you brought your hand warmers. How much does this morning game change the way that you prepare for a game against Texas?
Not much differently. Just, we've had so many night games that in the course of the day today, we try to get a little bit done. But we sent them to bed last night and said be ready to go in the morning. And they woke up this morning, chapel, pregame meal, and we're ready to go.
You said this Texas team was one of the better ones you've seen defensively and also talent-wise. Specifically, what stands out to you about them?
Well, I mean, they've got a bunch of great players, a bunch of future NFL players. But defensively, I mean, they're going to bring a lot of exotic blitzes. They're one of the best teams in the country in the conference on third down. And so to do a good job on third down, we have to pick up their blitzes. And it's going to be a challenge for our offensive line today, but they've worked hard at it all week.
You've got a healthy running game, though. How much is that going to help against those exotic blitzes that you mentioned?
Yeah, we have 4 backs that are all pretty healthy right now, and so hopefully we can get them off, get them going. And, the only way to really negate the blitz is to find a way to run the football. And when you do that, people have to be a little bit more base. So hopefully we can, get going up front this week.
You're 7 games in now. What's been the most rewarding experience so far here in Waco for you?
Well, I would just say the support for our student athletes by the fans. The last 2 games that we played here in this stadium, they weren't wins. They were great football games, Oklahoma and West Virginia, but they weren't wins. And to walk off the field to a standing ovation, to a chorus of cheers, as these kids are enduring this difficult time, to know that they have the support of the people that love Baylor is, I think, been really special to them. And once we get it turned and once we start winning, I don't think they'll ever forget that people had their backs when we weren't.
They had a lot of fight in that game against West Virginia. Coach, good luck today.
Thank you very much.
That's head coach Matt Rule joining us here on Baylor Game Day. Troy, send it back to you.
Can they run the football against this Texas front line?
I think they're going to have to create some opportunity for the offensive linemen to climb to the linebackers with some double teams and some zone schemes. But I think we'll be able to run the football. We got 4 different running backs that possesses 4 different style of talent. I think we'll get creative, maybe run that diamond package where you can get 3 backs in the backfield and do something that we misdirection where we can move the defensive lineman a little bit with the ball fakes and create some seams for our running backs to get open.
I know a lot of people looking forward to see how that plays out with all these running backs finally healthy. Now let's go to Taylor Williamson, who's joined by Elliott Coffey with this week's Coffee Break.
Thanks a lot, guys. Well, yeah, joined as always by former Baylor linebacker Elliott Coffey. We're going to break down some film for you guys. And Elliott, there was certainly a lot to break down last week. Obviously, 3 quarters of maybe substandard play from what Matt Rule wants, but a 4th quarter full of promise. What really worked there? I mean, what did you see from these guys?
Yeah, so, I mean, you're right. It was really a tale of 2 games. The first 3 quarters, it was a lull. I mean, we've experienced that basically all season where we show up, we start fast, but in the 2nd and 3rd quarter, we just don't have the intensity. We don't seem to have the execution that we need to really be successful. And then in the 4th quarter, that completely flipped. You know, they had no passing yards. They had 1 first down. It completely changed the tone of the entire game, and I think the biggest issue that we dealt with, and one of the ones that we're continuing to deal with, is our coverage. So one of the things at the end of the fourth quarter, we're in prevent defense with 2:46 left on the clock, and we allow them to score in a minute 8. You can't do that if you're going to win football games, and it's little stuff like that that killed us. And we're going to take a look at the film last week and see exactly what we did wrong.
Defensive struggles continued to plague Baylor throughout 3 quarters last week against Dana Holgorsen and the West Virginia Mountaineers. After holding West Virginia to a 27-yard field goal on their first drive, the Bears conceded 2 touchdowns to the nation's leading wide receiver, David Seals V, the most painful of which came on a 16-yard touchdown in the final moments of the second quarter, putting the Mountaineers up 17-6 going into halftime. Starting the third quarter, it was paramount that the Bears got to stop and give the ball back to Zach Smith and the Baylor offense to close the gap. Unfortunately, the Bears gave up a 3rd touchdown to Will Greer and David Sills V on a 53-yard touchdown just 18 seconds into the third quarter. The Bears went on to give up 14 more points in the third, and West Virginia lead ballooned to a crippling 38-13. Through 3 quarters, the Baylor defense allowed 38 points, 22 first downs, 107 rushing yards, and 375 passing yards. A completely different Baylor defense showed up in the fourth. In the fourth quarter, the Baylor defense allowed no points, 1 first down, 11 rushing yards, 0 pass yards, 2 forced punts, and recovered an onside kick, piecing together the first scoreless quarter of Baylor football the defense has played all season. A lackluster start and the second and third quarter lulls have haunted us all season and continue to rear their ugly heads. This is a Baylor defense with a ton of potential, but once again came up a bit short.
So one of the best things about that Baylor fourth quarter was the performance by Charlie Brewer. I mean, he came in there, really gave the team a spark. What do you see them doing with him this week?
Well, the thing is, when you have a running quarterback, it really opens up the field. One of the things that you've seen us struggle with Zach at quarterback is that Zach is a true pocket passer. He's going to stay in the pocket. He's not going to try to escape. If he does extend the play, it may be a sidestep, but he's not a threat down the field with his feet. Charlie is a threat with his feet. He will lower his shoulder and run you over. Hopefully not with his throwing shoulder again, but he will lower his shoulder and he'll run you over. I think as long as we have him in the backfield, it really does open up. Expect to see him probably, I'd say, mid-first quarter into the second quarter.
All right, well, we'll see what they end up doing later on. We'll break down the film on UT a little bit, see what the Longhorns are going to do, but that's all for now. We're going to send it back over to Touchdown Alley, guys.
You're watching Baylor Game Day on Fox Sports and KWTX News 10.
Today is the 106th meeting of Texas and Baylor, and it's been pretty one-sided. Texas has won a lot of the games in this rivalry, but there were some big wins by Baylor. 1989 was a big one. Baylor won 50-7 in Austin, ending a 38-year losing skid in Austin. And then 2010 started what was a really good run for Baylor. They won 5 straight in the rivalry. That streak continued as they won in Austin. They won in Waco. They really played well there in the Art Briles era against this Texas team. And then in 2015, that run ended in a game that was not a lot of fun for Baylor fans here, and also included a bit of a brawl in the first half of that football game. So it's been an interesting rivalry. And I wanted to ask you today, is this the biggest rival for the Baylor Bears? Is it Texas or is it TCU?
I would want to say it's TCU.
Yeah.
You know, I was asked this question earlier this week. Texas was always a clear-cut better team. OU's better, and when you think about like people finishing middle of the pack and trying to stay 500, I think you think about TCU and Texas Tech. And so Texas Tech became one of the biggest rivalries, and then TCU. Ultimately, Gary Patterson and Briles had a history there. Yeah. But there's a lot of personality differences between the players that play at TCU and Baylor. So I would say Texas is a rivalry, but not as big. And a lot of guys want to win this game just because they think Texas played a big role into stealing some of our recruits a couple years ago. So we'll see.
And still he wears the orange tie. You know, I don't know. All right, let's go to Tyler Bolden. He has.
It looks good on me, I think.
This week's Behind the Green and Gold as he takes us inside the locker room. Tyler?
Yeah, guys, a lot of work is done behind the scenes to make the Baylor Bears look good. Specifically, the equipment staff. They got to McLean Stadium yesterday morning at 9 a.m. They were gracious enough to let us shadow them and see them put the jerseys, the helmets, the pants, and even the socks in the lockers. And like Troy just mentioned, that is our behind the green and gold feature this Saturday.
Somewhat of a thankless job, but we know that, and that's just kind of how it is. But we still take pride in what we do.
It's a long day for Jeff Barlow and the rest of the equipment staff. Organization is key. Jerseys, pants, helmets, and even the right socks must be placed in the correct lockers.
To me, it's just all the work that goes into it behind the scenes, and making sure that we're providing for the student athlete to help them be successful on the field as well as off. So a lot of things goes into behind the scenes of getting this right.
I was a student in 2011 with Robert Griffin, so it was more exciting than anything else. Getting to be around, the Heisman year and all that stuff. So I was trying to learn everything, but at the same time, all that was going on. So it made it fun and exciting. So it made it pretty easy to learn everything.
In 2017, uniform variety has been the norm for Baylor. All green, all black, a black-green combo, and traditional so far. No two combos are the same, and the theme will continue against Texas.
So we did it a couple years ago. It's called Gunmetal Gray. It's called a company called HGI Hydrographics out in Oregon. They're the ones that make the helmet, do the finish on the helmet. They're pretty popular for things they've done for Oregon and several schools around the country. They do our chrome, our gold chrome for us, as long as with the gray. So it's a pretty sharp helmet. You sometimes do wear it with the gray jersey, but this week we're going to do it with the green. Mix it up a little bit.
The fifth uniform variation at home for the Baylor Bears. When I talked to Matt Rule earlier today on the interview on the field, he was wearing pants. We just saw him 5 minutes ago. It's 39 degrees on the field, and now he's wearing shorts. I think he's the only one that was wearing shorts at this point. So, to each their own, I guess. Troy, back to you.
Behind the Green and Gold is brought to you by SkinCeuticals. Refine your natural beauty. And I think the uniform combos have been a lot of fun over the years. I'm not sure I love the silver helmets.
It really is cool. I've had a chance to go in. I've interviewed Jeff Barlow several times. And to really see, when you walk in, they've got them all on display. So you can see like all the different color combination. And Terrence, I've always wondered, is that such a huge deal for recruits when they walk in to see all these different options and how cool they are?
Ask Oregon.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah,
it's
that's
the reason
true.
why they have like 100-something different uniform combinations. It is recruiting. I mean, you get different types of shoes. When you graduate and after each year, you can buy your jerseys and buy your helmets. I mean, who doesn't want to put those on display in your mom's house? So
yeah, that's a lot of fun. Welcome back to Baylor Game Day, live from Touchdown Al as we get set for Texas and Baylor here at 11 a.m. at McLean Stadium on a very brisk, chilly Saturday morning. All right, let's check out the Big 12 scoreboard this week. So as you might imagine, no games in progress yet. Yeah, I know. 10 o'clock in the morning, nobody's playing football yet.
no one's playing in London.
Only thing on is like cartoons like Barney, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the schedule for today. We've got Oklahoma State at West Virginia. That's an 11 a.m. game. I know you're going to be an interested viewer. That's a tough one.
I mean, that's not an easy. I think that's an elimination game right there for the Big 12 title. That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, absolutely. K-State at Kansas today. Our Taylor Williamson will be an interested viewer in that one. Julie, you picking Kansas to win at home?
Let's say, sorry, I'm just not looking at all this. Yeah.
No.
No,
you and the rest of the country picking K-State? Okay.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah,
I got Kansas with
Is this
the upset.
basketball or football we're talking about?
Yes,
I got
football.
Kansas with the upset. I promise you.
Are you serious?
I got Kansas with the upset.
I thought he was kidding. Give him the baby face
even
back.
bad teams are going to have one good game.
Well, here's it. It's either this week or next week. I'd rather it be this week because Baylor goes to Kansas next week.
TCU at Iowa State 2:30 today. That's a big one, too. That's another game that could prove an elimination game for the Big 12 title game.
If Iowa State can win, they're in the driver's seat for the Big 12 championship, a championship game, and they control their destiny. TCU is playing really good defense. They shut out Kansas last week to 21 total yards of offense. I think TCU gets in the win column and stays there this week.
And then tonight, Texas Tech and OU, which could feature a lot of points, which I think we're all excited about. That could be a fun one.
Yeah,
you want to see OU
Texas
really play
Tech
well, though.
A month or so ago, they looked like Cliff Kingsbury had really turned things around, and since then, losing 3 of 4. I don't know. He's back on the hot seat again.
He seems like he's on the hot seat all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
No, you know, I think it is in football. West Virginia beat Texas Tech twice. I mean, if you look at it, that fourth quarter in Morgantown a few weeks ago, they just left the stadium, and West Virginia came out and played good, and Texas Tech had no offense. They came out flat the next week against Iowa State that's playing really good ball. And I think, you know, a lot of times in coaching when, you know, the coaches would tell you cannot lose to the same team twice. And I think they were demoralized after losing to West Virginia. And they came out flat against Iowa State, and Iowa State took advantage of it. Now, Iowa State is playing really, really good, you know, football right now. So not to take anything away from Iowa State, who has a big game today, but Texas Tech has really disappointed me because I thought they would be top 3 in the Big 12 this year.
I was looking at Iowa State's upcoming schedule. So they're 5-2 right now. Their next 3 games are all against ranked teams.
Yeah.
TCU, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. So it's about to get real for them.
Yeah.
Who's the best team in the Big 12 today?
TCU.
Is it TCU?
They have the best record.
Makes sense. You agree?
I mean, they have the best win. They went into Stillwater and got a win. That's the best win anybody has in the league right now.
Yeah, they have the best win. I would say Oklahoma State and TCU, and West Virginia are in that battle. And someone's going to lose a game. But that matchup in Morgantown today will tell you a lot where the Big 12 stands and who's going to be in the driver's seat. Because next week I think Oklahoma plays Oklahoma State in Bedlam.
So, next weekend.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game as well. So Oklahoma State needs to win this game to have a big game in Stillwater next week.
The Big 12 scoreboard brought to you by Brazos Valley Carpet One. All right, let's go to Tyler Bolden now. He's inside McLean Stadium with a very special guest this morning. Tyler?
Yeah, Troy, it's almost kickoff time between Texas and Baylor, and we are so glad to be joined by class of 1958's Drayton McLean. Drayton, first of all, thanks for joining us this morning. I wanted to ask you specifically, 2014, the first season that this stadium opened. Can you take us back? Do you remember the feelings that you had when you first walked in here?
Absolutely. We were playing, it was September, and it was hot outside, and we were playing SMU. And former President George Bush was here, so it was just everything was happening at once. And he tossed out the first coin, and Baylor had just had a terrific season after that. That was excitement because Baylor had played in a great stadium, but it was off campus. And this was the first time Baylor had ever had a football stadium on its campus.
45-0 win over SMU that day. They played pretty well. I wanted to ask you about the Houston Astros in the World Series right now. They're leading against the Dodgers 2-1. They still got a couple games to go. Have you been keeping up with them? How much fun is that?
Absolutely. Our family had owned the Astros for 19 years until 2011, and we had gone to the World Series in 2005, and so I know the feeling of when you're sitting there and anticipating almost every pitch. But they sure played good. They won Game 2, and then they won Game 3. They came back playing in Houston last night, and that was exciting to watch. You know, what was really exciting is that we were involved in building the stadium, Minute Maid Park, and we saw the stadium and how effective it was, and it was in downtown Houston, and people are really excited. So it's fun to watch them be successful.
And they could get it on Sunday, assuming they win tonight and tomorrow. Now, real quickly, Baylor against Texas today. I know who you think is going to win the game today, but do you have a score prediction for me?
Well, first we got to get 2 wins for the Astros so they win the World Series. The second is, you know, the rivalry between Baylor and Texas is just immense. And as I was driving from Temple, driving up Interstate 35, I saw all these cars that were coming up 35 that had orange stickers on them and saying Longhorn stickers, and I thought those guys are going to go home and be very disappointed today because we're going to win. Baylor's going to win this game.
There's a lot more orange than we'd like to see. Drayton, thank you so much for the time today.
It's a pleasure being here, and it's a spectacular, beautiful day for Baylor, Texas.
It sure is. Drayton McLean, class of 1958. Troy, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Tyler, thank you very much. Glad to see his priorities straight. We got to get 2 Astros wins.
Yes.
And then we want Baylor to win, too.
And, you know, he's talked about that in the past. And I'd sort of forgotten that one of the reasons that he really pushed so hard to have the stadium, which, by the way, has his name on it and contributed quite a bit of money, is because he knew the success, what he saw it did for the city of Houston when they got theirs.
Well, looking forward to a good football game today. We'll be right back to wrap things up here on Baylor Game Day, live from Touchdown Alley on KWTX News 10 at Fox Sports. All right, we're just about a half hour away from kickoff here at Baylor, and let's get you caught up on the our final thoughts here on today's 2-minute warning. All right, final thoughts and a prediction for us in the Orange Tie Man.
Baylor 35-31.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah.
Baylor wins.
You like the way they're going to get this done, huh?
Hey, he's feeling pressure for wearing the orange tie. Apparently, Twitterverse is.
Yeah. Well, I just
talking.
think we're able to find a way to win today.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do that even in some of the close games. I think if we're close late against Texas, we find a way to get the win.
Julie?
I'm going 2010. I'm going University of Texas. You know, I hope they find a way to get a win. You know, this would be. I think we keep saying that every game. This is the game that would be great to see it happen. And again, with such a rivalry like University of Texas and Baylor, I guess anything's possible. So, Terrence's idea isn't too crazy.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of points today. It's windy in there. I don't think it's a great day. Neither offense is going to have much success today. I think UT wins it 14-10. Very low scoring.
Oh, we're close. Hey,
very low scoring.
14, 10, 20. This is like prices right here. Who does $1?
I will take the over on both of those scores.
All right. The Big 12 scoreboard. I'm sorry. The 2-minute warning brought to you by Waco Mattress Center.
Hey, Troy.
I'm thinking scores.
Troy, if he's taking stuff on his bed, he's got to anchor the next show in the baby face.
I'm totally good with that.
Julie, whenever you want to line up on this turf and race, we can do that.
Okay.
And
we're
with that,
going to do that.
And with that, we say goodbye. Enjoy the Baylor game coming up in about a half hour. You've been watching Baylor Game Day live from Touchdown Alley on KWTX News 10 at Fox Sports.